Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chelsea if you're new here. Well, I'm Chelsea, but this is Veronica. Y'all know her. You've seen her before. If you are new, welcome. Please do leave a comment down below and let me know that you're new. I like to aggressively welcome you to the team. What is happening? Why was I just about to say that? But to my channel, you're a dumpling now. Congrats. If you're subscribed, you're spicy, you're a dumpling. We're so happy to have you. Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is at CCsuarez. I'm also that on all social media as well. So follow those two. I'm actually really trying to get my TikTok built up. So please do go follow me on TikTok. I have lots of funny anti-MLM related things over there. And then also just like TikTok stuff too. So if you like me, you'll love my TikTok. Go over there at CCsuarez across all social media. If you'd like to watch any of my other commentary content, go ahead and click up there into that little playlist. I'm sure you've probably missed one because there's a lot on there. There's like 100 videos on there now. And everything I mention in this video, including my lip gloss, my lashes, my wig, will all be linked down below along with my merch and my Reddit community and all my social medias. If you would like to do an interview with me regarding an MLM that you were involved in, or a cult you were involved in, literally anything like that, my email for that and submitting your horror stories and things like that is down below. That is CCsuarezmakeup@gmail.com. Now that we're done with that long AF intro, right? My God. As you can tell, today's video, we had the pleasure of interviewing someone who was at the top of Arbonne. She was within the top 2% of Arbonne. She is a gem. She's so sweet, so nice, and I am so excited for y'all to meet her. So without further ado, here is my interview with Julie, who, like I said, was at the top 2% of Arbonne and would like to share her story. Right, so today we have Julie with us. She was at the top of Arbonne, and so I'm very excited to have this conversation with her. And Julie, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let me know, or let the people know what rank you were at, the name of it, the percentage, maybe how long you were in Arbonne, and when you left.
Yeah, so I joined Arbonne in March of 2019. I just got married. I was finishing my master's degree, trying to figure out what to do with my life. I left Arbonne at the beginning of 2021, officially just deciding to stop working my business. So when I finished, I was an executive area manager that was in qualification for regional vice president. Area managers, top 6%. Executive just means you've helped someone reach that same level in the business. And then qualification regional vice president means I've hit a qualifying volume to reach that. And it's a 2-month qualification. So I quit before I finished.
Okay, and what was the title of the rank you said again?
Executive area manager.
Okay, perfect. So the third rank, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. And at what rank do they get the car at the vice president level, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And how many? So you were in for 2 years, right?
Yeah, I was working my business. Full throttle from the very, very, very beginning until October of 2020. I think that's when I slowed down. Yeah, so there was actually an instance that happened that made me just say, I think there's something wrong here.
Okay. So that actually is a question that I want to ask you too. So first though, who recruited you into Arbonne?
So I used to go to summer camps and work, and I had a friend who was doing Arbonne. Her mother was also in Arbonne, and she reached out to me one day through Instagram DMs and asked me if I wanted to take a look. And I just didn't know anything about MLMs. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they meant. I didn't understand what it was. I just liked the sound of it. It sounded too good to be true. And sometimes when people say it's too good to be true, it's actually something to look into as a scam. And so I wish I would have done that, but yeah.
How many people did you have under you?
Wow. So I'm trying to think. I had more than 30 under me. I don't even know the exact number, but definitely more than 30 people in my downline.
And so that's not just counting the people that you recruited directly, that's also counting the people who they recruited. Okay. And
correct, yeah.
how would you say it was difficult to recruit people, or would you say it was pretty easy?
I'm sure you've probably heard of it before, but there's like a daily methods for success. And it's something that they stress you to do in Arbonne. I did it every single day. So I would reach out to at least 10 people a day, and I probably had 2 phone calls a week. So I would say it's not easy, but I think the hardest part of everything is the emotion that you go through, the no's, the stress, the anxiety of having to message people. You are constantly uncomfortable.
Yep.
And insecure. So yeah, that's the hardest part of it.
I believe I'm looking at the 2018 income disclosure statement for Arbonne right now on my screen, but I wish they would have had the median income on here, but of course they don't, because that would be a more accurate depiction of what people are actually making at each rank. But it says that for area managers, the average annual earnings is about $17,000 a year, and the top 50 were getting about 45 or 54,000, and the bottom 50 were getting about, ooh, that's so sad, 2,700. So would you say that that's like an accurate depiction, not only for you for gross earnings for, you know, each year, or what would you have to say about that?
I would say that's accurate for someone building their business, for someone consistently working the 17,000 a year. That I would think would be someone who's working very hard as an area manager. I did make above that, but of course that was in qualification for region. So yeah, I would say that's accurate. I would say the lower end of that is probably the most accurate if you're just an area manager. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, obviously you don't have to share this, but in 2019, and I'm not sure if you even have this information, but in 2019, what would you say your gross annual income was?
In 2019, I hit area manager in December, and my gross income earning, I think, was $5,000 for 2019.
Annually?
Annually. Started my business in March.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And as I think, I say it to you right now, Chelsea, I'm shocked because the amount of work that I put in was unbelievable. And I mean, the amount of work and the amount you pay monthly for products, I definitely paid over $5,000 in 2019 for products. So I can guarantee that it shows I made 5,000, but that's not accurate.
Okay. And then I'm happy you said that, because that was actually my next question. Well, 2 of my next question. Do you think that the, the time, the effort that you put into it was worth that? Or, I mean, and obviously it's not, we can, it's a loaded question. We both know it's not. And then also the gross revenue versus your profit. So realistically, that first year, you didn't even make a profit.
No, definitely not. No. And I would be surprised. So for 2020, I did make more just being an area manager, and I still think that I did not profit much. I worked every single day. I felt like I was just never present where I was. Like I could never be present. There was always some kind of stress on myself to be reaching out. If I had an opportunity to sneak something in there, like if I was watching someone's story and they were like, "Oh, I'm so tired today," it's like, "Oh, well, have you heard of this?" The business is constantly on my mind. I felt like I missed a year of my life just because I was never there. And consistently stressed. My mental health was awful. But it was just some kind of blind faith that I had the entire time. I couldn't see what everyone else could see. So yeah, it was pretty difficult.
Yeah. So when it comes to 2020, when in those figures, what would you say that would be for the gross revenue versus in like the profit as well?
Yeah. So for my gross revenue in 2020, I made over 20,000 I think it was between $20,000 and $22,000. So definitely made more. I worked so incredibly hard. I worked more than I did in my full-time job and got paid, half of what I got paid originally. So
when it comes to the like time freedom and all that, I'm sure you've heard me say before, it's funny that they don't say free time, it's time freedom, which it's like, is it? What would you say in regards to that? I mean, you already kind of said it right there.
Yeah, it's a marketing tactic. I think they mistaken time freedom with places you can work. Freedom of where to work. It's never time freedom. It's just freedom of where to work. Yeah, definitely marketing tactic.
Work from anywhere and work from Wi-Fi and things like that really just mean that you're working everywhere and all the time. And it sounds like that's exactly what you were doing. I mean, how did it affect your personal relationships? Because it sounds like you didn't have any time for anything.
Extremely hard. I did lose a lot of friends. I lost my best friend, actually, and something I'm grateful for, a few friends who were patient with me that stuck around, but I just didn't give anyone my time. I was a newlywed and I didn't give my husband my time. I just had the outlook of what this will be in the future for us, like all this freedom that we'll have, all this, that we can have in the future. I'm still deconstructing. Like, I don't want this to be so extreme, but like brainwashing, I kind of feel like, just leaving 4 months ago, I'm still thinking of instances going, that wasn't right. There was something off there, and just trying to break down my thoughts and shifting them to what is the reality. I kind of felt like I was living in an alternate reality to what normal people live in.
When it comes to, and I actually like that you say you're thankful that some of your friends were patient, because I do have a lot of people who say, well, what do I do? And, how do I tell them? And I always say, like, listen, it's going to cause a rift if you bring it up. So just be patient, be there for them. Don't buy anything from them. It's going to enable them to stay in and things like that. But, don't, try to debunk them or anything like that either, because again, that is going to cause a lot of drama. You said you lost people because you weren't putting time into these relationships. Were any of those strains on relationships from people trying to tell you like, hey, be careful, or this is a pyramid scheme, or, this is unethical, or anything like that?
Definitely. I think a lot of people didn't know how to tell me. There were a few that did, that were like, hey, and they were all pretty kind about it, especially my close friends. They were like, hey, I don't know what this is, but maybe you should take a look and see if this is really something you want to do. There was just this atmosphere of like, if they don't, support you, don't support them. Like, step away. They don't want what's best for you, right? Like, if they don't want this for you, they don't want what's best for you. There were a few people who sent me like the FTC website and were really showing me facts. But the people that I saw as mentors and leaders were really telling me like, don't listen to the people who love you the most, which was really difficult. As I'm coming out of that, brainwashing and that intensity of that MLM world, I am just always so sad to think about how the people that love me the most just tried as hard as they could to love me, even when I was not present at all for any of them. So yeah, those were things that were really, really difficult for my relationships.
Okay. But keep in mind, and I always tell people this whenever they're like, oh my God, I cannot believe like I acted like this, or I'm just so sad about it. Or, I had someone message me earlier today and they're like, I just feel so dumb. And I'm like, don't. It happens to a lot more people, but people don't speak up on it. And that's why I really appreciate you doing this interview, because people don't speak up on it because they're embarrassed about it. That's why we don't hear about a lot of people being scammed. I mean, I don't want to openly tell someone I fell for something and I was brainwashed, but it's so important to tell your story. And so really, I do really appreciate you taking time to talk with me, because it's so important to especially hear from people who did make money, who did work really, really hard, who, did rank up, who were close to, getting to the point where, they did get the car, they were in like the top 2%. So I do appreciate that. So thank you. But you're good. You're out. Very proud of you. You did the damn thing. Now, you said that in like October-ish 2020, that was really a turning point. So up until that point, had you seen like any, I mean, other than people, just sending you like the FTC or, websites or blogs or statistics, had you looked into anything else and, tried to do your own research?
So at the very beginning, I had one particular friend who I cut off after that. She sent me a video from YouTube, talked about Arbonne. And one of my uplines just told me, if anyone ever do something like that, just send it to me. I'll look at it first. And she said, this is also something you need to watch. You know, if we watch it, we're just giving that more views. They're just really uneducated. They have, you know, they don't understand. And so I, I know looking back now, even saying it to you, Chelsea, I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
That girl, Julie, that is like cult 101. That is limiting the information that you receive to try to keep you in.
Yeah. I wanted to, you know, I would go onto YouTube. I love YouTube. And I would look, and just every once in a while, an anti-MLM video would pop up and I'm like, no, I shouldn't look at that. That's going to be bad for me. Like, you know, I don't know, like there's something icky about it. And it's because it was, you know, inside I felt icky. Deep down, I guess I kind of knew there was something going on, but, you know, of course, my mentor and my friend, you know, they would never do anything wrong to me. That was kind of like my thought. So yeah, that was my experience. I didn't even look into it until there were a couple instances in October where I was like, maybe I should. And then I got on YouTube and I started watching anti-MLM videos, and I was like, watching you and Isabella, and you know, a few, y'all are wonderful women. So watching you guys was really a page turner for me. I felt embarrassed, like you said. It took me until April of 2021 to really talk about it, and you couldn't get information about it without feeling like you betrayed your friend and your leader and your mentor.
Yeah. What would you say, and you don't, if you want to be vague about it, you can too. What would you say were those few instances where you were like what made you start questioning things?
So a lot of, you know, there was a lot of political issues in MLMs and people who were in them. And there was an instance where a Facebook group was created and it was based on like child trafficking. And I was like, oh, I'm all for this. And then it went into some deep roots of conspiracy theories. And I said, there's something wrong here, because all of the leaders, or a lot of leaders that I personally knew, were in charge of this Facebook group from my MLM. And I said to myself, there's something wrong here. These people are supporting these theories, conspiracy theories that, you know, don't sit right with me. I really need to take a sec to think about this. It was just like complete shock. And then I was like, how did I get this far to almost even think about agreeing with this Facebook group? Like, how did I get to the point where all my morals that I've completely believed my entire life were just kind of thrown out the window? Right when I saw that, the Facebook group ended up being taken down by Facebook. They removed it, and some of the admins of the group could not use their Facebook for a while. Ooh. And once I saw that, I said,
they were putting Zuckerberg time out, huh?
Yeah, they were. I said, you know, I think it's time that I get a little more educated on what I'm doing. And that's when I dove into YouTube videos and the FTC website and just kind of really started educating myself.
Okay. And how did they react when you either said you were going to quit, or did you even tell them, you know, did you bring these concerns up to them?
I slowly backed off. The end of 2020 was really difficult for me and my family, so I just used that as an excuse to have some time off. And during that time off, I just spent my time educating myself. I never really came back. I stepped aside quietly, tried to stay under the radar. Anyone who was in my downline that still continued to work would just go to my uplines and get help from them. So I would say I dipped and dodged out of the situation.
Yeah, sounds like you did the Irish exit. Nice. Yeah. I mean, personally, that's what I always suggest to everyone. You know, don't tell your upline. Just please call customer service and cancel. I mean, do they know that, you know, you're done, or not yet?
I'm sure that they know. Something that's repeated all the time is, you know, if someone stops working, they can come back, right? So don't worry about them. If they're not working, they might come back to you later. And I'm not sure if that's just to build confidence. And I'm sure that those uplines know that person quit. Yeah. But they always want to some kind of, they want to build the confidence of the person below them, saying they'll come back, you know, and if they don't, that's their issue. They're missing out on something. And so a lot of times when people quit, or like when people do Irish exit, as you said, they just don't worry about it. They're like, there's more people out there. Keep asking other people who want to work. Keep finding other people who want to join.
What would you say is there like a certain cringy experience that like sticks really in your mind, or something, you know, just baffling or culty or crazy that, you know, your upline said to you, or anything like that you'd like to share with the world? Maybe something that if it's shared, people would be like, oh dear God, that's happened to me too, or oh, I'm happy I'm not in that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones for me was something you talked about before is love bombing. I think, saying like, and toxic positivity, those are two of the biggest things that I have experienced. Just mentioned to you about how I sent the video to my upline and she said, don't watch it. I think that's one of the biggest things that is now so cringy to me, to think that someone tried to take that education away from me. And I like pride myself in someone who is smart and tries to understand things and study things. I have a master's degree. I think that education is so important. And then when it comes to it, it's like, I let that person just take all that from me, and I believed them. It just blows my mind that I let them control me. I think controlling was one of the biggest things that just went over my head.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's one of the aspects of the bite model, which is basically a checklist for it. Is this a cult? And information control is a huge part of cults, but really MLMs as well. The similarities are insane. Would you say most of your revenue came from sales of products, or from recruiting people, their sales, and basically the benefits of like having recruited people and having a downline?
Oh, definitely recruiting people. I think the biggest people who buy products from MLMs, at least my personal experience, were the consultants. And you were encouraged to buy multiple of the same product so that you could allow someone to borrow it and try it out. And of course, like, it was just out of your pockets. And so I mean, they would have like these big sales, and all of the consultants would buy everything before anyone had the opportunity that was a customer to buy it.
But was there any type of like rebuttal when you were going through training, or in your 2 years that you were in Arbonne? Was there any type of rebuttal that you had for an objection that someone gave you? Was there any of that just didn't sit right for you, or pardon me, sit right with you, or anything that just kind of made you feel weird that like your upline like wanted you to say?
Yeah. So for me personally, the way that my upline and the way that, her upline as well, who was the top income earner, ran their teams, where they would give you pre-written text messages or emails or pre-written things to type out, and then say, okay, this person, take this and make it to where it's personal. So they would give us everything. They would give us what to say, how to respond when certain things are said. We would have trainings over people rejecting us and how to respond to rejections. So anything that we said was most likely pre-written and done from our upline. It was never actually personal.
That's a sales tactic as well. Having, to an extent, obviously they take it way too far. But I've done trainings where we go over overcoming objections and things like that. Making it a little bit more personal. But of course, it's different because you're not recruiting you're selling a product or a service, right? You're not recruiting someone into an MLM. And you said that mostly all of the answers you got from people were no's, right?
Mostly they were no's. And something that was super pushed into our brains was a no is not a no. A no is a not right now, which I'm pretty sure I've heard you talk about before. And so, we would go back, 3 weeks later or 2 months later to that person and ask them again. And I think sometimes, they would say yes, just because they were tired of hearing it. A tactic I see that I even used a lot was the guilt tactic, right? They would say, I can't do it because I have this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, I also have this, this, and this. Like, if I can do it, right, you can do it.
Yeah. Did you ever post your your paycheck or anything like that? I know some people in Arbonne do. I know it's more of like a Monate thing, but were you ever encouraged to do that?
So I think I did a few times. I would like cover up the paycheck, but once the FTC sent out the letters to the companies in 2020, they did an entire like revision of what we can do. We had these huge training calls that everyone was supposed to get on. Everyone had to like go and actually read the compliance statements, because that's actually not something that I did at the beginning. That's not something that was pressured to us, was to go read compliance. But they, went back and I guess redid everything. And after that, they were like, no, posting of paychecks, you always have to put the disclaimer at the bottom.
And when you did do that, was it, like a comically low deposit?
Yes, at the beginning, yeah, it was slow. The weekly ones, of course, a lot of times you don't even get the weekly ones. They say, you get paid 5 times a month, but the other 4 are like the weekly times that you sell products. I mean, they're definitely much lower than it's put out there to be. Comically low. I think that's a good way to describe it, actually. Definitely.
Or depressingly, because it's sad.
Yeah.
Did you ever wear a brown hat?
I never wore a brown hat.
Good. I'm
I
very
am
very
so
proud.
grateful. I just watched a video the other day of Isabella doing the drinking game, and one of them was the brown hat, and I was like, oh, I could never afford the brown hat, Chelsea. Ever. Those things are expensive.
Hey, DSW online has a lot of really, really good ones. Yeah, that's where I've gotten like all of mine.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I have like a wall of like floppy like felt hats basically, but I can like never wear them because I will then look like an Arbonne hun or a whoever the hell selling pyramid scheme person. If you could tell someone who is in an MLM right now actively, if you could tell them anything or give them some type of message in a bottle, what would it be?
You're being used. I think that's it. You're being used. I mean, that's exactly what I'd say.
That is, I'd say put that on a t-shirt, but knowing my audience, I will literally get that on a t-shirt in my PO box in like a week. So I won't say that.
Incredible.
I've learned my lesson by this point. That's beautiful. Would you say that after, looking into everything, you kind of realize that, okay, this is their motive. This is why, they want us to recruit. This is why I'm recruiting people without realizing it. Would you agree that, you did feel used as well?
Definitely. Yeah. And something that's really difficult, especially as I ranked up, I used people all the time without realizing it. And I did a lot of damage to people, which is something that I'm having to come to terms with personally. I know, being brainwashed and all of that, but it really takes a toll once you get out to just kind of work through what you've done to others as well.
And are you, reaching out to people, trying to make amends? How are you handling that?
Yes, I am. In the past month, I've really started deconstructing, kind of what happened, like what the past couple of years have been like and where it went wrong. And so, obviously starting with my husband, I actually like recently just apologized to him that I feel like I missed past 2 years of our marriage because I got married and then 2 years later or 2 months later, I joined Arbonne. So it's kind of trickling down as I go, just trying to find the words is really difficult. How do you apologize to someone that you've used and or someone that you've completely neglected for 2 years of your life? That's something that I'm working on.
I think one thing that's important is accepting what happens. It seems like you're past that part and really understanding it. And when you get to the point of trying to rebuild those relationships, really, and just being vulnerable and being like, hey, I was misled, explaining that part, but then still, of course, taking accountability for it as well. And, saying, I know better now. And I think that's extremely important, but it happens to a lot of people. It's understandable. It's horrible, obviously. So we've gone over, the kind of culture-ish aspect of it, the uplines, how you got in, when you got out, the money aspect. One thing I do want to ask as well, did you ever go on, I know you were basically in it for like almost all of COVID, but did you ever go on any like trips or anything like that?
I did get the trip to the Bahamas in 2020. Obviously weren't able to go on it, but I did get that trip.
Now, when it comes to the free trip, so what was included in that? Or did you even, look further into it?
So the only part of it, that they said was free was the hotel stay, and then they would give you food there as well. The flights were on you. So you had to book the flights, how to get there and all of that. But I was thinking recently about that trip and how, they talk about it being free, but the work that I put into it to get that trip, the amount of money that I put into Arbonne in general, I paid that trip 10 times over. I, just recently thinking about that, it's just so incorrect to say free trip is not free at all.
Exactly. And I mean, thank God you weren't able to go on it because that would have reflected on your taxes as well, though.
Yeah. Well, actually, they sent us the money.
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
At least you got that. When it comes to taxes, though, what is your experience with that? Were you blindsided?
Yeah, completely blindsided. I didn't know much about taxes in general. I was still in college, but I did not realize you have to save up for this kind of thing. Like you have to take a portion out. They don't tell you anything. They tell you nothing about this. In a normal business, you know, something that was ethical, they would explain this to you and tell you how these things work. But only in the beginning, at the end of 2020, did someone say, oh, by the way, you have to pay taxes on your stuff. And so that is something that is really difficult for us right now, you know, being in the hole and trying to figure out how we're going to do that. You know, part of it was me obviously not being educated on it, but another part was, you know, they don't tell you anything. You're all on your own.
Yeah. I mean, we can say, you know, consumer responsibility as much as possible, but that's not okay when it comes to an MLM.
So young in their early 20s, 18, 19, 20, 21, trying to figure this all out. And they're not even done with college yet.
Is your husband a W-2 employee?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So would you mind sharing how much you had to pay in terms of your 1099 and not paying all year long?
So I didn't have to pay for my 2019 year just because I was in college that year. But in 2020, we actually in the process right now with our accountant trying to figure this out. So we are going through hell to try to figure this out. So I don't even have the exact number yet. I'm actually terrified to see what we have to pay. So that's something I've been really nervous about.
Is there anything else that you would want to share?
You know, I'm sure by now if someone was an MLM, they might have clicked off. But if they are still here, you know, they're still here, just get educated. That's just the word, education. Get educated. Why do people say it's a pyramid scheme? There's got to be something to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I regret. But I'm happy to share my education now to other people. I've been helping a few people get out of MLMs and talking to people whose best friends are MLMs or family members are MLMs. And they're like, how do I deal with this? Like, what's going through their mind? And I'm like, well, I can tell you what's probably going through your mind. So education, just get educated. Big thing.
Perfect. So Julie, that was all I had today. And I really do appreciate, like I've said like 6 times during this interview, I really do appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and using your voice and helping. I mean, I'm sure you already know, but this is going to help a lot of people, you know, hearing from someone who technically was in, you know, the top 1 to 2% of Arbonne or of an MLM in general. You know, you're not a hater. You've been there. So
I've done that. Yeah.
Is there any social media, anything you want to shout out at all?
So I have a TikTok where I do anti-MLM education.
I love that. Put that in my description box. All right, friends. So that is actually it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed the interview. Like I said, if you would like to be interviewed by me, you can do it publicly, or we can go ahead and keep you disguised as well. I always want to make people feel comfortable. So definitely let me know. My email is down below. It's the CC Suarez one, not the Chelsea at the Selfish Suarez's one. Don't send it to that, please. That is only for like professional, you know, brand collab purposes and things like that. Management handles that one. Like I've said before, I don't handle that one. So please definitely get with me through email. Email is usually the better way to do that. I would love to be able to share your story. If you don't necessarily want to do an interview, you can always send me over your horror story, your experience, your story in general to my email, again, CCsuarezmakeup@gmail.com, and I would love to include it in one of my horror story videos. As always, please do remember, just like Julie said, you're better than this. You are more valuable. You deserve better. You don't deserve to be used by people, and there is a way out. We can help you. So always remember, stay spicy, speak up for yourself, stay assertive, F politeness. Especially when it comes to sticking up for yourself. And I will see you in my next video, which will most likely be tomorrow, unless today is Friday, since I don't post on Saturdays or Sundays. But I'll see you in my next video. Bye.